Good evening. I'd like to call the Winterville Town Council January meeting to order. Tonight, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Tonight, our invocation will be given tonight by Pastor Alton Wooten of Good Hope Free Will Baptist Church here in Winterville. Mr. Wooten, if you would step to the podium, please. And after Mr. Wooten does the invocation, we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
First of all, I would like to say good evening to each and every one. Mayor Richard Hines, thank you so much for inviting us, amen, to come, to your cabinet, amen, to the staff of this great Winterville community. Let us bow our head in a word of prayer. Most gracious and all-wise God our Father, it's again and before thy throne and in thy presence that I bow. I come, O Father, with a bowed down head, but yet a humble heart, giving thanks, Father, for the many blessings you've already bestowed upon us. We thank you, O God, for last night's sleep, again this early morning rise. We rose and clothed and in our right mind, able to put our garments about our bodies and had activity of our limbs. And yet another day, God, you have spared us. And here we find ourselves here this afternoon, oh God, amen, at the Winterville community. Now, God, we ask that you look down upon these, your people, God. Oh God, we ask right now that you get in the midst of your people, God. Oh God, we ask, oh God, that you bless every officer here on this evening. We ask that you bless the mayor, oh God, the cabinet, and each and every one that's under the sound of my voice. Amen. We ask, oh God, that you will rain down, oh God, the fire from heaven. Oh God, touch from heart to heart, then from mind to mind. And oh God, whatsoever come out of this meeting, God, oh God, we ask that it be fruitful, oh God, and we ask, oh God, that it be prosperous for this Winterville community. Bless right now, God. Use them for your glory, for your will, and for your way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, if everyone could please stand and face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Ricky Hines. We'd like to welcome everyone to this town meeting tonight. And before I go any further, just want to thank Pastor Wooten and members of the Good Hope Free Will Baptist Church. If y'all could please stand so people can see the congregation showed up and showed out. Thank you all. Next up, we have approval of the agenda. Is any changes?
I don't believe so, Mayor.
Okay. 3.
From the original agenda, there are 3 additions that were added
Oh, yes.
under the other agenda items.
Yes.
Other agenda items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So thank you, Don. That they were added between the time the agenda packet came out to you all versus this evening.
Okay. And also, too, we added something, acknowledgement under announcement. So.
So what
Okay.
about the markings, street markings, crossings?
Sure.
Yeah. Isn't
Yes.
that on there?
Yeah. Yeah, the agenda packet that you received had the old agenda. I had laid the new
Yes.
agenda
On
at your seat.
The front and back agenda you have at your seat?
Is the correct
Under
one.
other agenda
And I
items.
apologize for
It's the
that,
most
but
recent.
it was sort of late minute getting you the packets since our website was down.
Okay. All right.
That good, Mr. Moore?
Everybody?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, everybody, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion made by Councilman Moy, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Any questions? With none, all in favor of the motion, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carry. All right. Next up is a discussion of the vacant council seat. Before we start, I just want to bring to the board's attention a late letter that we received, and it was received in our mail today, but the mail was actually postmarked, and this is through it was postmarked on January the 4th and put in mail January the 4th. And I'm not hating on the post office, but as you can see, we just got it today. So, and I hope everybody had a chance to look at it. If not, there's a copy in front of you here. So that makes a total of 9 that we have received.
That's correct.
Okay. So with that being said, I'm just putting this out here. I think it would be fitting to have a special call meeting so we could look at all of them and evaluate all of them, with this right here being, part of the process. But accordingly, it's up to the board. Y'all make the decision. But I'm just putting that out there. I think it will be a fair process to look at, since we're now just getting a late one where we got the other ones on Thursday evening around about 6, and then we got a hard copy on Sunday evening. And now we just are getting an additional one. So to be fair, I think that we could hopefully look at a possible calendar date to have a working session that we can look at them all together and determine to be fair and to everyone.
I'd like to hear comments from other board members and see what they feel about having another night or tonight.
The floor is open.
The request that was made to our citizen was to have interest submitted by a certain time on Friday. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Harvey, could you read the information? Do you have that information available that was addressed to the citizen?
I do not have a copy of it right here, but it did say received by 5 on the 9th.
At 5:00 p.m. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, not the 9th, the
Yeah.
5th.
5th,
The 5th.
Thursday.
Thursday.
So with that being said, I think that we should I accept the applicants that was submitted by 5, and I think that we should look upon the applicants that we have available. I think 8, and this one will make 9. Is that correct?
This one will make 9, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And like I stated, that it was submitted late, and I understand about the mail, but it was requested that all the applicants need to be submitted by 5 p.m. on Friday to the clerk's office. Thursday, I'm sorry.
Thursday.
So I would like to make a motion that we will accept the 8 applicants that we have and make a decision on those 8.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor to accept the 8 applications that were submitted. Motion made by Councilman Moy, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Before I call for the vote, is any comments? Well, Paul?
Well, it was mailed on time and it got here on time, right?
Yes, sir. And I'm going to state this right here for the record, also just to make this a part of the record. Everyone does not have a computer. Most of these were emailed in, and everybody does not have a computer. And this person put this in the mail. So I can't see why we're discounting someone that still did what they was told to do and applied on time by putting it in on the 4th. Because of the mailing system was not their fault. You know, as how it works, but the board has made a decision. We got a motion on the floor, and we're going to call for the vote if no one else has anything to say. Okay, with that being said, all in favor of the motion, raise their right hand. All opposed, raise their right hand. Motion carried 3-1. So we will go on with the applications that we have on hand. Okay, so what is the pleasure of the board?
I would like to make a motion that we appoint Lisa Smith as a replacement to her husband, Mark Smith, onto the board.
Second amendment.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Motion made by Councilman Tony Moore, seconded by Councilman Rice, to appoint Lisa Smith, as you stated, the wife of Mark Smith. Correct? I just want to make sure the motion reads that way. Okay. All right. Before we vote, is any questions?
Yes, will we have opportunity for other candidates to be submitted into?
Not if you make a motion.
Actually, last time, I wanted to defer, if it's all right, to the town attorney, so he
Yes.
could talk about.
When we did this last, what was it, in 2017,
Yes.
I believe it was, we handled this by nomination, not by motion. Now, you're not obliged to follow that same procedure. I just want to point out that's the way we did it before, where we took nominations and then, of course, closed the floor and then went back and voted on those nominations.
Thank you.
Well, actually, the nominations were done by motion and second, but they were done
But they were-
back to back.
They were
They voted upon-
nominations.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
they were voted
Yeah.
upon, not really sure why we followed
I know.
that whole lengthy procedure in 17, but they were essentially nominations.
Right, absolutely.
All right.
So the question is whether you want to do the nomination route or just take one motion and vote on one motion. You know, if that passes, it passes. If it doesn't, you take a second motion.
Okay. Well,
I think that we ought to submit all names and then vote upon those slates of names and then make a decision from that slate, once we make that motion.
Any more discussions?
Yes.
Okay.
I still say that I feel like we should follow the rules and procedures that we adopted as a board a few years ago. We have rules and procedures. Not too, a year and a half ago, we had a vacancy on the board. We followed the rules and procedures to fill that seat. Now, we've got this seat to fill. I feel like we should do the same thing. Consistency. Do the same thing each time. And in order to do that, we would appoint the person with the next highest number of votes. And that would be an easy process. It's not impartial. It doesn't pick. And it's based on the number of votes in the last election. That is still my position. I will not change from that. I feel like that's what we should do.
Okay.
I would like to add to that also. Mayor?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
When we elect, when Councilman
Rice?
Rice, I'm sorry, when Councilman Rice was elected, that was the process that we used. We used we went to the highest next voter. And no one didn't say that he wasn't a bad fit or a good fit. They just said it was the right way and the right decision to make. It's a process. It's a good process. We looked at that he was out in the field working during the campaign. He spent his time, his energy, and some of his funds for them signs and to help, he had ones to come out to volunteer to help him out on his campaign. So he put some energy and work into it. I'm not saying that the other candidates that we have is not a good fit. I'm just saying that this right here would be a policy that we can use at this time to see if the next highest candidate would be interested in serving the remainder of this term. We're only speaking of from now until January of 2024. We will have another election.
No. We will have an election
It'll be
this
in
year.
November, but the seat will be available in January.
No, the seat will be available
in
this year.
December. I'm sorry, in
Yeah.
December.
December. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, a little less than a year left on the unexpired term. So I would recommend that we will follow the policy myself.
Well-
And that next highest person will be, I will recommend Chantel Hawkins.
Well, hold on for a second. Discussion, for closed discussion, I'm going to make this statement here. Basically, last meeting, I made a statement that we didn't have a town election this year. There wasn't a town election this year. We had a town election in '21, and we followed the policy that you and Ms. Robertson both spoke about, and we followed that policy to elect Councilman Rice because he was the next highest vote getter, okay? Because we didn't have an election this past year when Councilman Smith ran in an off year, so therefore we didn't have an election. So therefore, you go outside of it because you didn't have an election in your town. And that's why you opened it to the public, because you did not have an election. And you asked the citizens if they wanted to be engaging to the process, and that's what they done. They submitted applications, and so therefore we're still following our own rules when we have an election of our town and we lose a board member. But we didn't have an election this past year. So we went outside and solicited people to put in applications. So
I understand.
I'm just stating that so that the viewers know and the public know that was the reason that we got to this point.
Gotcha.
Okay? All right?
No.
All right.
No. Municipal elections are held in odd-numbered years. So therefore, there couldn't be a municipal election in this year to fill this seat now because of the fact that they are held in odd-numbered years. So our policy states the election. It does not signify the last election. It does not signify the last municipal election. It says the election. So therefore, it is referring to the election that selects council people.
Well, we can debate this all night, but we're
Okay.
not. We're going to call for the question. And
I'd like to make a comment. We did not follow this policy with John Hill, David Hooks, or J.T. Crawford. When a citizen only receives 16% of the vote based on their platform, that means 84% of the people voted against that person, did not vote for that person. 16%, not what I call good democracy. If the person got 35, 40, 41, even better, but 16%. And our town deserves the best qualified candidate. Just because you file, pay that fee, you might not do anything in an election and still get 16%. Is that really fair to the citizens to appoint somebody who has 16% of the election people vote for? When we have a candidate who was living with a man, married to him, 17 years, who's had information during that 17-year period. Husband and wives share information. They think a lot alike. We need to appoint someone who thinks like the person who went off the board. Thinks like that person. He was elected for 17 years. He never lost an election. Our town deserves the best candidate. I never voted for this policy. It passed. I never voted for this policy. So I believe we need to pick the best, and I made the motion based on that. I think about John Conant. Second year on the board, we went to a town manager, town clerk to a town administrator. We knew at that time, we appointed him, he was a risk management person for the city of Hickory. He was not qualified at that time to be a town manager, but his father was in Smithfield, and that paid off. Then the next year became our first town manager. A good decision was made, hiring that man because he had a father. A good decision in appointing Lisa is because she has a husband at home that would share ideas from the past. You learn from the past. Makes things better for the future. And we did not follow this policy at all with Hill, Hooks, or Crawford.
But we did on Mr. Rice, is that correct?
Yes, we
Now,
did.
if we go back and look at the percentage style, what was the percentage on Mr. Rice? Because if I'm not mistaken, the next highest voter was very close to his election.
Also, you know,
And
Wait a minute, Ms. Robinson.
if we're looking at percentages, so, or you will saying that we're going by percentage because of this person would be the most qualified because they do not have a certain percentage for this board. I think that person, that percentage represent that they have an interest of serving the community. They have an interest of being on this board. They have an interest of providing or giving up their time and effort. I think they have shown some interest. So I think that is a good policy that we have in place that we should stick to and continue to have. I think that would be the right choice to make, to have the next highest vote.
Okay, Ms. Robinson. Yeah.
I think that in the election, the person that, all the people that ran were showing an interest in serving in our town government. And in Winterville, one person, one vote can change an office.
That's very easy.
And one vote can put you in, or one vote can keep you out. So therefore, that percentages don't always reflect everything. There were over 300 people that voted, if I'm not mistaken, for the next highest person. And of course, there were quite a few names on the ballot. So I feel that this person should be given the opportunity to serve. Also, the other times that we deviated from this policy was because the board decided to deviate from the policy when the policy was in place. And some of those instances that you named, Mr. Moore, the policy was not in place. And so therefore, they couldn't use it. I believe that rules are made, and when you make a rule, the rule is fair to everybody.
Yes.
It's fair at all times, and it's fair to everyone. If we have a rule if we go out there, we got 55 miles an hour. If the police stop us, and you know you're going 60, you know you've broken the road. So you face the consequences. Rules keep us. It makes us orderly society, and that's what we want. And I just believe that this policy that's in place helps us keep our democracy going and moving in the right way.
Thank you. Mr. Rice?
I don't know if the rules have changed, but the night of swearing in was the first time I knew that I won. Because there was a provision, I guess, in our regulations that I did not necessarily come in simply because I was the next class
Yes, sir.
voting. So has that changed?
I don't think so, but I know we got a motion on it, but I just need to clarify something to all the candidates that put in their submission to serve on this board. I just want to say, for me, thank you all, because I understand what Mr. Moore said, and I know Lisa, I know Mark, but any and everyone has the capacity to serve. She may be with Mark 17 years, but public records and people watch us on live screen can have the same effect that Miss Lisa had, because they could have been listening for 17 years. Or they could have picked up public records from here you don't know about in 17 years of some of the same people that maybe apply. You know, her staying with Mark doesn't make her any better than the other candidates. And I'm not discounting you, Miss Lisa, by no means. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, you know, don't weigh your decision on because she lived with a councilman. I talked to my son, but I don't think my son can serve. And I've been talking to him for 15 years, because he asked me every time I come home from a meeting, how did it go tonight, Dad? I'm just making that point so that everybody know that, make sure that you're voting for what you know is your conscience, who would do the best job to serve this town.
I can share two situations. 2011, I went to head of the Board of Education elections. Am I legal? Absolutely, to run. Okay? I filed. Then they questioned where I lived. Still live there. The 4 counties voted I was legal. The Board of Elections says I was not. Did they give a reason why? No. They said the final hearing was in Marshall, North Carolina, with 5 people in the courtroom. Could the person tell me one reason why I wasn't legal? No. Didn't have to. They would not count my votes. Democracy. One election we had 6 years ago, 10 people voted in Winterville. We know they didn't live in Winterville. They did not have a new election. 10 people. One person won by 1 vote. But 10 people voted. I gave them the names and where they lived. And I was right. They voted. And no new election. Is that democracy? 2 situations in my short life. The rules are not played by. This policy is not good for our town, because anybody can file, spend that small amount of money, and do nothing. If 2 people filed, when I filed my first time, only 235 people voted in the election. I lost by 4 votes. If Mickey Mouse had put his name down there that day, paid money, not be a Mickey Mouse example, and I had died, the other person had died, and that person would have been appointed. Is that the best quality for our community? No. We all have to use good judgment. The judge who decided, who was not the judge, he was the head of the Board of Elections, He could not give me one reason why I was not legal. But head of Board of Elections in Pitt County says, you're legal before I filed. Are you sure I'm legal? Yes, absolutely you're legal. Would not count my vote. How about those 10 people who voted, who did live in town? How did the Board of Elections allow those votes to count, whichever way they voted? Is that a good election? There are problems with any policy you have. Judgment. We've never had a white, Hispanic female on our board in Winterville. They make it the majority of the population, female, white females, more than white males in Winterville. We've never had one on this board. We never had one, I don't think, ever got over 95 votes in Winterville. And my father-in-law served from 1941 to 62 and then commissioner at 86. But we've never had a white female on the board. This is our opportunity. A person who thinks differently than I think is a female. Everybody needs an opportunity to be a part of this elected position. I honor it very much. I've been very proud to have served 6 terms. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, I appreciate that, but I don't think race or creed or whatever matters here. We want someone that is willing to serve. I don't care if she's polka dot, green, blue, or whatever color. But we would not let this town be tainted by race.
I agree.
We would not.
But
I mean, I let you have your piece. I let you speak. Now, I'm going to speak because that's not what it's about. And Miss Lisa wouldn't want that to be about that. She wants to be about if she's the best person, if she's the best candidate. It's not about her ethnicity, however you say it. But you got the point. So, I'm calling for the vote. The motion was made by Councilman Moore.
I think you had a motion.
Nominations.
No, no, he made a motion.
Motion.
He made a motion.
Okay.
He made a motion. There was a motion on the floor. This was a motion. Don, wasn't that, this was a motion? Correct?
Yeah, he made a motion and there was a second to
Second,
the
there was a
motion.
second, so we got to go through the formality, right?
Well, and my suggestion was whether or not you decide whether you want to go by motion or nomination.
Right.
If you want to go by motion, you have that right to do that.
Yes.
Right. I mean, because the motion is on the floor. And, you know, it's whether you voted up or down. But we're going to carry it through with the motion. Okay? All right? So the motion was made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Rice, to appoint Lisa Smith, the wife of Mark Smith, to fill the vacant seat. That's what the motion was. Okay? We will vote by raising a show of hands. All in favor for this motion, vote by raising your right hand. 2. All opposed, raise your right hand. Okay? So it's 2-2.
There's a tie.
There's a tie. I get the vote, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. I vote the motion down. I vote with Moore and Robinson
Voting against.
voting against. Okay?
I would like to make a motion that we select Chantel Hawkins.
Second motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson, to elect Chantel Hawkins. Any discussion? Any discussions? Okay. All in favor, vote by raising their right hand. All opposed? Got a 2-2 tie. That's my vote. All right. I'm raising my hand. I'm voting with Tony and Paul. So the motion fails, okay? So,
I make a motion, we have a special meeting, discuss this further. Due to the number of people here tonight.
And when would that special meeting be?
Whatever date we decide.
let's look at the calendar right now,
If it is all right, I do have a suggestion.
okay?
We do have our vision setting meeting on the 23rd,
23rd.
and that starts at 6. If everyone's available to start at 5, you could technically have that special call meeting prior to. That way, if we scoot it into 6 or beyond, then we're really holding ourselves up. So since it's already on your calendar, I didn't know if that would work.
Okay.
I think that's what you just brought to our attention is very important. And we're talking about our budget. And that's my prayer for tonight was that we will have that vacant seat taken care of tonight. We are prolonging an issue that, it's not that hard to decide. It's very important for us to have that person in place and ready to go when we have our meeting at the end of this month to do our budget.
And that's really your vision setting
Where
meeting.
the,
So
yeah, the
budget's a
vision.
piece of that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a piece of that.
Absolutely.
So it's very important for us to have that person in place. So that's the reason why if we don't need to table it, we don't need to wait until next week. I don't know what we can change if we decide to do it tomorrow or the next day or the next week or the week after that. You already can see exactly what the vote is. And I'm just asking the mayor, he's the one going to break the tie. I wonder what will make the difference.
We'll meet, if up to me, January the 23rd at 5 o'clock. We'll sit down, we'll look at all the applications, and that's what we would do. If you're asking me, that's what we would do.
I make a motion, we meet 5 o'clock, January 23rd.
Yes, sir.
Got a motion on the floor and a second. Got a motion made by Councilman Tony Moore, second by Councilman Paul Rice, to meet on January the 23rd at 5 o'clock to review all the applicants.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
It is very important for that person to be in place when we set our vision and when we do our budget.
That's right.
When I came on the board, that was one of the toughest things that I had to do was that budget, to see what the priorities were and to make sure that I understood. And it also sets in place our focus for that year. So it is important that we get someone to fill that position as soon as possible. But I do realize that after the vote tonight, we don't have anybody. Doesn't seem like we're about to settle on anyone. So I guess we'll have to do it that way. But I would like for those people who submitted applications or submitted them to be aware, start looking at the budget, looking at things like that, and make yourself aware of what our town budget contains and what requirements are up there, and to attend. They can attend this meeting, am I correct?
Yes.
They
it's
can
an open
attend. This
meeting.
is a public meeting.
Right.
The vision set meeting is a public meeting. So
Oh,
we need that participation.
I'd like to ask a question to the attorney. Will it be fit for us to have a closed session at this time and to discuss this issue and then come out and make a decision if we have a few minutes together?
The open meeting law, the closed session portion of it's very clear that any discussion over filling a vacancy, discussion over
Must be open.
a replacement board member, if you will, has to be done in open session.
Open session.
Okay.
It's not available for a closed session matter.
So even with you saying then the meeting that we have later on this month, that we question, it still have to be open to the public?
Correct. I think that meeting would be noticed anyway, but this matter would have to be done in open session.
Any more questions? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All All in favor, vote by raising the right hand. All opposed? Motion carried 3-1. We'll meet on January the 23rd at 5 o'clock. Next up, we have a proclamation for Human Trafficking and Awareness Prevention Month. Don, if you could do the honors, please, sir.
Yes, sir. This is the Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month in January. There is a representative, I believe, in the audience representing, are you with Teddy Bear? Okay, which Teddy Bear helps you all a lot. Whereas human trafficking involves the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, buying, or selling of human beings for their services of labor or commercial sex through the use of force, fraud, and coercion, whereas human trafficking violates basic human rights and deprives victims of human dignity and freedom, and whereas human trafficking is a growing global and national problem, with North Carolina being consistently ranked among the top 10 states for prevalence in human trafficking, and whereas it is imperative that we educate our communities, our young people and families to take an active interest in learning how to recognize the risks and resist predators who use coercion and threats to manipulate children and adults into labor or sex trafficking, and whereas the sex buyers are the reason that children and adults are being groomed and recruited by traffickers into the exploitive sex industry, and whereas our community must hold accountable those people who purchase sex and those people who look the other way, whereas the Pitt County Coalition Against Human Trafficking seeks to eradicate human trafficking by empowering organizations and individuals through collaboration, leadership, and training, and whereas Teddy Bear Child Advocacy Center, the Center for Violence Prevention, and many other organizations are active members of the Pitt County Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and whereas the town of Winterville is committed to protecting people vulnerable to human trafficking and take action to end human trafficking by holding the sex buyers and traffickers accountable. Now therefore, I, Richard E. Hines, Mayor of the town of Winterville, hereby proclaim January 2023 as Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month in the town of Winterville, and commend its observance to all citizens. In witness whereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed this 9th day of January 2023.
Thank you, Don. Next up is Brian Jones to talk about Southbrook.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Happy New Year to everybody. So, as stated, we do have a rezoning request tonight. So if you follow along with me in your packet and along with the slides, so we got a rezoning request for Southbrook Plan Unit Development. The parcels are listed there. You got 5 different parcels. So the applicant is the Coley Group. Scott Moore will be the representative for the Coley Group tonight. So it's located out on Church Street Extension and Laurie Ellis Road. Parcel numbers are 15006, 11636, 11638, 82096, and 82094. That covers 245 acres and some change. So our current zoning district is AR, Agricultural Residential, and the proposed zoning district will be a conditional district PUD, Plan Unit Development, with R6 and MR. So, Plan Unit Development, you're going to hear me say PUD a lot in this presentation, but this is similar or the exact same process as we would for a conditional district rezoning. So each PUD is a customized zoning district, and it specifically identifies the location of buildings, uses, architectural design, open spaces, etc. So PUDs allow an alternative design for the community in exchange for creativity and development. So that design will be governed by a site-specific development plan, which will control the layout of the development and the design of all components of the community. So what you'll see is you're going to, with the rezoning request, you're going to see exactly what it's going to be up front. So that site-specific development plan will give you all the details of almost to the scale of a preliminary plat, but not quite lot layout, stuff like that. So a little bit more about PUDs. They permit the design of conservation and cluster subdivisions. So when we talk about clustering subdivisions, we're talking about actually getting your traditional subdivision is going to span the whole entire property. The conservation and cluster subdivisions will allow you to tighten up those lot layouts and actually conserve open space and environmentally sensitive areas. So that will ensure protection of those environmentally sensitive areas such as streams and their buffers, ponds, wetlands, and then it also offers some density bonuses, but this one actually won't need to apply that. The densities will be below our thresholds anyway. So when we look at the applicability of a PUD in Winterville, there have to be a certain criteria that they meet, and I'm going to read through each one of these. And again, you guys stop me along the way if you got any questions. So, application of a plan unit development requirements to the property will produce a development of equal or higher quality than otherwise would be required by the strict application of district regulations that would otherwise govern. The application of a plan unit development requires the property will encourage innovative arrangement of buildings and open spaces to provide efficient, attractive, flexible, and environmentally sensitive design. The application of the planned unit development requirements to the property will produce a development functioning as a cohesive, unified project. I do want to stop there on that one. So with the size and the layout of this property, the cohesiveness of a project of this size is very important. From the town's perspective, we don't want to see a hodgepodge of different developers coming in and putting different products along. So if we can, especially a piece of property like this, when you look at the entirety of it and the drawbacks it's going to have, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I did want to make sure that this one kind of encompasses C more than anything. So the application of the plan unit development requirements to the property will not substantially injure or damage the use, value, and enjoyment of surrounding property, nor hinder or prevent the development of surrounding property in accordance with the adopted plans and policies of the town. So again, we're going to harp on this, environmentally sensitive areas. So one of the principal reasons when you look at our ordinance, a PUD is designed to protect environmentally sensitive areas. So it gives the ability to deviate from the strict application of the zoning requirements. So we're going back to that conservation cluster subdivision design. So, and it's going to do, obviously protect floodplains, wetlands, stormwater management, streams, et cetera. So as always, I like to go through our process of where we're at. So notification was posted on this site back in October. The applicant did host 2 community meetings in this room on October 20th. Those meetings were well attended, and I thought they went really well. The Planning and Zoning Board met November 21st, 2022, and unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning request. So subsequently, the adjacent property owners were mailed notification of this public hearing December 21st, 2022, and then it was also published in the Daily Reflector on December 28th, 2022, and January 4th, 2023. So getting into the actual location, so you can see the outline property in blue here. So Lori Ellis is here. You got Church Street extension here. Reedy Branch will be down this area. You can see Reedy Branch coming in right there. Old Tar. So it spans from Lori Ellis all the way over to Church Street. Just an aerial of the site, again outlined in blue there. Again, Lori Ellis up here, Church Street here. Reedy Branch will be south of the property. So this is the preliminary wetlands map they did. So you can see all the blue interior there is what they preliminary mapped out. The blue lines would represent the stream features that are going to be buffered, and you can also see this gray area here is the natural gas pipeline going through there. So with all that being said, you can see there's a lot going on in this piece of property. So there's a lot to take into account. So there's Not going to be a lot of space to really, kind of get your conventional subdivision layout in there. So again, that cluster subdivision design is going to come into play on this piece of property. So, and there's your actual PUD site development plan. So you can see all the green areas in here, and Scott's going to talk a little bit more about this, so I'm going to not try to hit too much in detail, but all the green would be the open space, all the beige and darker beige would be the residential areas in there. So I did want to point out all these yellow circles. So you're going to see a good opportunity for a lot of interconnectivity here. So with the existing interconnectivity we've got in Holly Grove, in Mellon Downs, and then along with the, I didn't put these up there, but the accesses on Church Street and Laurie Ellis, you're going to have about 12 different accesses when this thing is fully developed. There's just a little bit better picture of it. So again, all the green areas will be your open space areas, and all the beige and dark beige areas will be your residential areas. The current zoning, AR, agricultural residential. So your existing land use map, all that kind of muted green colors just means it's wooded or vacant. Our future land use plan, all this yellow is suburban residential. So suburban residential is primarily large lot, single family detached residential that many people love about the town's housing stock. So it's generally 2 to 3 dwelling units per acre, larger lots with front and side loaded garages. However, smaller lot sizes occasionally if minimum standards for open space and amenities are exceeded. And I think you'll see that they meet those that criteria for smaller lot sizes. So our general character area, again, we just look at the density. So as I just stated, 2 to 3. So we're looking, it's below that threshold. It'll actually be less than 3 per acre. So going to our recommendations and implementation policies within the land use plan. So encouraging a balanced tax base while managing growth. So utilize the future land use plan and character areas when considering land use decisions. So the infrastructure improvements and then encourage a logical progression of the development extension of our utilities. So this development would give us the opportunity to actually do that in a logistical way. So we've already got existing out there adjacent property owners, so it would, and then it would allow us to expand out further in the future. So encourage open space and amenities in the new development. Obviously, we've talked about the opportunity for a large amount of open space out there. I'll let Scott get into that in a little bit. Our economic development policies, so reinforce the town's identity as a family-friendly community, and we do that by supporting rezonings in our suburban and residential character areas. Obviously, we've stated this is a suburban residential character area. So, and then requiring the connection of substreets to adjacent properties. We're showing you that there's an extensive amount of that on this property. And then require sidewalks in the new developments. Per the character area definitions, so they will be providing sidewalks, and Scott will show you part of that as far as their PUD document. So here's our conservative or conservation subdivision design. So you can see on the right, this would be your traditional our traditional subdivision design. This on your left, you can see everything's tighter in here. You got more open space, and you're protecting these environmentally sensitive areas. So that'll be the exact same concept that we're looking at for the PUD. So with all that said, staff recommendation, the conditional district PUD rezoning request is consistent with the intent and the purpose of the zoning ordinance, the future land use plan, and is compatible with the future development and trends in the surrounding area. So planning staff finds the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the proposed zoning district is compatible and with surrounding land uses and the future land use plan. Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval of the rezone request on November 21st, and so staff recommends approval of the request to rezone 245.43 acres from AR agricultural residential to conditional district plan unit development R6 PUD and EMR PUD. So again, P&Z recommended approval. The public hearing was scheduled back in December the last council meeting, and now council will hold a public hearing regarding this request. And with that, I'll answer any questions beforehand, and I'll introduce Scott Moore with the Coley Group to do a small presentation for the applicant.
Anyone have any questions for Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Pipeline and houses. Are houses going to be built on that?
So Piedmont Natural Gas has strict regulations on that. So they do allow some perpendicular crossings, but there will be a buffer that they dictate that. So no, you won't be able to build on that pipeline, and you'll have to buffer around it. So there's a certain distance you'll have to be from the pipeline. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't want to state what it is, but it's one that Piedmont Natural Gas dictates. We don't have any control over that, but they will not allow anybody to build on that. Or so they do that to obviously to cut down on vibrations, any type of punctures or anything to it. So they want to keep people. They're in the business of keeping gas in that pipeline. They don't want anybody around it for sure.
Anyone else have any questions for Brian before we open up the public hearing? Okay. Brian?
So let Scott come up.
Okay, with that being said, now we can open up the public hearing.
Yes, sir, you can. I think he's got the one gentleman from the applicant who wants to speak, so you let him speak, and then you can go in favor or
Okay.
against.
That could be part of the public hearing, however you guys want to.
However you choose. If you want to speak, you can come up and speak.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Scott Moore. I represent the applicant, who is the Coley Group. Before I present this evening, I just want to publicly thank really Brian Jones and all of the staff for all of the work and time that they spent in this endeavor. Brian, I'm just really grateful for all the time and effort that you guys have put into this, and I certainly appreciate their efforts. So, as we evaluated this property as outlined in purple, we quickly realized the proposal will set the stage for future development, as this is a doorway for large undeveloped tracts, both in southern and southeastern Winterville. And it's imperative that we set the tone for good land use practices, not only for our property, but for the adjacent properties around us. So Brian talked a little bit about the suburban residential, I will as well. So in an effort really to establish that tone that I'm talking about, we feel there needs to be a considerable adherence on the town's comprehensive land use plan. And as we review this plan, it indicates that we are in fact in the suburban residential area, and we are proposing 2.5 units per acre, which is under the threshold of the 3. And we also are looking to exceed the minimum standards for open spaces and amenities as well. So as Brian had shown in this slide, as we unpack those policies of the land use plan, the one that I want to focus on, since it relates to design, is policy number 6, which encourages the preservation and creation of quality open space. One of the ways to achieve this is through that design and the formation of that conservation subdivision. Really, I won't talk too much more about what that is, but conservation subdivision is taking that land that would normally be into lots and then putting that into open space for the entire community to use. So a key component really to our review process and how we look at this, and that's going to accompany the rezoning as well as that planning and development that Brian had discussed, is that in the way that we're going to deliver on the goals of this PUD, I'm going to share with you kind of how we came about this design process. And one of our main objectives when creating community design is to really focus and identify on those natural qualitative areas on site. Those are the ones that are outlined by green there. And that would include, as Brian was indicating, the wetlands, the significant stands of trees, the streams, the buffer areas, the rock outcroppings, really any other natural features that you have on site. And our goal is to preserve as many of them as possible. Once we establish our preservation areas, we then design our internal road network and then cluster our lot groupings as shown in the black circles around that open space. And as you can see, it carries that very similar appearance as to that cluster design that is shown in the land use plan on the bottom right. Now, once those two areas are reviewed, we then focus on creating what's known as user-end destinations, such as pocket parks and other open spaces as outlined in black, with a very heavy emphasis on promoting pedestrian activity for accessing these locations. Now, when we were at the October community meetings, I went into great detail about the different types of open spaces that we've provided in our other community, including this one here in Sunset Bluffs. where the focus is really to create places and opportunities to bring the community and our families together. If there's really anything that I want you to come away with tonight, it's that we're here to create a community and not a subdivision. And one of the ways that we achieve that is through the enhancement and usage of our open space areas. Now, along that line, one of the things that really excites us about this property is that there's a near 5-acre site that's outlined in red in the center of the community. That lends itself for a great recreation area, and that is also mirrored on the other side of the street by a larger preservation area, which is just a really unique opportunity in building communities. The other thing that motivates us about developing this site is that we offer over a third of the total site, which is 81 acres, into open space, and we look to utilize almost 20% of this site, which is 48 acres, in usable open space. This will go a long way in connecting our residents and families together. Now, as I said previously, our project is the doorway to several large undeveloped properties, and we believe that providing interconnectivity and street stubs will not only assist our neighbors, but also provide for future access points to Reedy Branch Road and eventually out to Old Tar Road through the development of those future parcels. Now, the reason this is important is that it will disperse traffic in multiple locations and on multiple streets, and in not just 2 main entrances. If approved, we will have a traffic impact analysis completed to proportionally mitigate our impacts, but having those multiple access points will be key in dispersing traffic. So in addition to the connectivity, one of the aspects that we pay very close attention to is the creation of shorter block lengths between the intersections and putting bends in the road to eliminate long straight lines or runs, which typically invite speeding inside the community. Through design, we want to create shorter distances where drivers have to make turns, and this causes a natural traffic calming effect, slows down vehicles within the community. Also, another effort to slow vehicles along community streets is to provide street trees along all of our streets. Now, this slide right here shows the current standard residential street cross-section for the town. To point out, we are leaving the road and the curb exactly as it is designed per the town, but we are increasing the planting strips from 2 feet to 7 feet where the sidewalk will be located, and then we'll have a 12-foot planting strip on the other side of the street. We will place street trees 50 foot on center on both sides of the street. Now, there are several reasons that we do this, but most importantly, it offers 2 safety features. One, it provides that physical barrier between a car driving through the community and a pedestrian on the sidewalk, as shown here. And 2, the street trees frame in the road, which causes drivers to slow down as well. So outside of safety, this design creates symmetry, which is very important to our design. You have the street, the planting strip with the street trees, the front yard, and the homes, which creates the backdrop for the entire area. So, let's go back. We bring those homes closer to the street really for 3 reasons, so that it has more direct frontage feel. It allows pedestrian-friendly neighbors to say hello and engage with one another. It allows for larger rear yards, and it creates a larger private space for families to play and entertain as well. The third option is that it narrows the viewing window into the rear yards from the front of the home, which is important because the backyards are where we typically store all of our stuff. The trash cans, the hot tubs, the kids' toys. You don't see as much of that from the sidewalks and the streets when the homes are closer together, and as a result, there's more focus on the aesthetic of the homes. And this is just an example of just that viewing window on the right. Even though these are 2 side-loaded homes, you can see just through the red X's or that red X there, you just have a larger viewing from the street and the sidewalk of people looking into rear yards. Whereas on the right-hand side, when you have a narrower, it just gives you that less of that opportunity to see the things that I was talking about previously. As part of our planned unit development, we are offering a phase of single-family attached homes in our community alongside the single-family detached, as Brian was indicating. This may seem unusual to some, but we had a lot of history in development and joining together the multiple housing products within a single community. And really in a case in a point to look at, this is our Skybrook community within Huntersville. It's just north of Charlotte. It's a golf course community with 1,153 homes. It has patio homes with alleys, front-loaded townhomes, and really detached homes anywhere from 40 feet to over 120 feet in width, with homes topping out in resale value over $1 million in that resale. So we have those 3 townhome phases that are really interwoven in high prominent areas in the community right next to the single-family detached homes. So we hold high standards for all of our housing product, and there's been no decrease in value or quality of life with any of these homes. and this has been ongoing in this community for over 21 years. Skybrook is an outstanding community. We want to add another one by bringing Southbrook into Winterville. So as I wrap up, I just want to end on a personal note. I've been a part of this team now for over 16 years. We have been developing and building communities in North Carolina since the 1980s. We're local guys in North Carolina. We've developed over a dozen communities with over 5,000 single-family homes, also 600 multifamily homes. What sets us apart is we set the architectural standard and personally approve every home for every lot that's within our community. So we're not going to do anything to tarnish our reputation or be associated with anything that creates a lower quality of life. In fact, every community that we have built, our homes raise tax values and we increase the tax base. So our plan here is to provide a Class A community that exceeds all the requirements of the Winterville Land Use Plan. Also, as I said previously, we're very appreciative of all of staff support, the support that we receive really from the adjacent property owners and the letters that have been sent out to you guys as well, the residents who have come to our community meeting, and for really unanimous support of the planning board. So I really just want to thank everyone for welcoming us in, being a part of this process, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anyone on council have any questions for Mr. Moore? If not, we declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, it's fine. I just want to point out that I've sat at your desk, received comments that we had either emailed or submitted to the town clerk. I've listed them there by order of receipt. So you got Mr. Abbott Hunsucker's letter who's in favor, Mr. Lewis Tripp's letter who's in favor, Mr. Robert Edwards' letter who's in favor, Jeff Stallings' letter who's in favor, Irene, I think it's Leahy, and they are, she is opposed. So we can take as much time as you want to read through those, or if you guys are satisfied with that, just let me know your preference.
What is the preference of the board? Do you want them to read them, or are y'all satisfied?
I'll say with the exception of the last one, all of those are adjacent property owners of this property, so.
Any question? You have a question? Okay. I declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition of it? Opposition of it. Moving too fast. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition of this project, could you please step to the podium, state your name and address? That would like to speak in opposition of it.
I can go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. State your name and your address, please.
Yeah, Tamika Carr.
You got 3 minutes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Tamika Carr, 3004 Casino Drive. Our home is right there where the access will be. I guess I don't know a lot about it. My concern is traffic. And also my concern is, how is the property gonna be divided so that we can make sure that we have our own property as well? That's really my concern right now. How they're gonna, because we are governed by HOA, so I don't know if they are gonna be governed by HOA to be able to, keep our property separated, because I'm very concerned, because I'm right there on the end. I'm right there at the access point. So, and I know there's gonna be a lot of traffic that's probably gonna be coming through there. And so I'm also concerned about the animals as well. Like, I see deers right now, in my backyard or coming through my yard, and some of that is gonna be wetland back there. So where are they gonna go? And I also heard about the rerouting the traffic on Reedy Branch Road. I don't wanna go on Reedy Branch Road, because there's a lot of deers back there, especially at night. So that's just my concern at this time. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition of this? If there's no one else that would like to speak in opposition, now we will switch to who would like to speak in favor of this project. If you would please step to the podium, you got 3 minutes, state your name and your address.
Mayor, members of the Winterville Town Council, my name is John Day. I work out of Greenville, live in Slaney Loop at 152 Slaney Loop. I would like to say I'm strongly in favor of this rezoning request. It's a unique opportunity to encompass wetlands into a development plan that most normal developers wouldn't do. I am a licensed real estate broker and have had this property listed for sale over the last 2 years. During that time frame, we had a number of developers and buyers that wanted to buy 10 acres or 15 acres or one or two as high as 90 acres or 70 acres. But as we tried to work out the details of development, it got to be extremely complex to get to agree to a timetable on roads and infrastructure and access and zoning. The proposal by Scott Moore is far superior and I think is an excellent one. I don't see any reason for me to go into the details any further than what he said, other than to say that by encompassing the wetlands into the development, it'll create an asset for the whole neighborhood, and that's something that I think is positive for Winterville. So I do think this will increase property values. I do think it's a big plus for our neighborhood and for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Lee Lawrence, and I too am a licensed real estate agent, but that has nothing to do with my decision. In fact, when I heard about this, I made some phone calls, and I actually ended up talking with Scott and Stephen Penn and Brian, because I was concerned about the traffic pattern. I was thinking, oh no, because being a resident and owning other property as well in Winterville, I was thinking, oh no, this is going to just create a train wreck of traffic, because we already have issues around town. And after seeing the plans and looking at them and looking at the entrances and the exits throughout the neighborhood, they have done their due diligence very well on this subdivision. So I'm in favor, and I'm also excited because there's not a community like this in Raleigh, Greenville. So I'm very excited that Winterville was chosen to be a part of this subdivision.
Mayor, her name
Yes.
and address.
Yeah, she gave a name and address. Yeah, she gave a name.
What was her name?
Lee Lawrence. Yes, sir. You can step forward.
My name is Will Kuhn. I'm a builder here in Winterville. We've built several subdivisions, and the plan that I see right here, I think would be a great benefit for the town of Winterville, and it gets my blessing. I think that's a tough piece of property to work with, but what they've come up with looks terrific.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? If there's no one else that would like to speak in favor of this request, we'll now close the public hearing. Declare the public hearing is closed.
Make a motion to approve the rezone request.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor by Councilman Tony Moore, second by Councilman Moy. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor vote by raising their right hand. Motion carry. Thank you. Next up was consent agenda. Consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
And a motion to approve the consent agenda by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Any discussion before we move on? All in favor, vote by raising their right hand. Motion carry 4-0.
Mayor,
Yes.
we skipped over public comment, but I don't think we had any public comment.
We did not have any public comment.
Just want to make sure.
Don nodded to me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We got
Thank
a
you,
nodding
thank you.
system.
I see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, but
Right.
there is no public comment.
Right. He would let you
Thank
know.
you.
Of anyone that registered to speak.
Right.
I missed that, no.
Keep me straight, keep me straight.
Old business, Terry, parking.
Yes. wanted to give, this will just be a short update since we've had the holidays, but as we discussed, our parking plan, planning of that continues. Anthony and I are trying to set a meeting with the gentleman who, or company, I should say, who will be doing the striping of parking spaces, which will include the addition of some spaces on Railroad Street, as we have presented previously. So as soon as we get that scheduled, we'll try to come up with a time frame for getting that first part done. And obviously, we'll try to make it worth our while and get around to all of the areas where the parking markings need some attention. And then what I think we'll move into next is taking another look at the traffic pattern on Church Street behind Town Hall. Simultaneous with that would be looking at the market property where there was some initial planning to add some additional parking in there and look at how that may come into the future of additional parking. And we've got some other things in mind there, but we do think that the striping in addition of spaces will be first on our list. So by next council meeting, hopefully we will have had that meeting and at least have some, hopefully, tentative timeframes for you.
Okay. All right. Next up is a request to hold a parade by the Shriners.
This is a little bit of an unusual agenda item, and I'm going to ask Don to kind of bring you up to speed on how that came to be, if that's all right, Don.
Sure. You can see on your abstract, the local Shriners approached us about having a spring ceremonial parade, which is for the Eastern North Carolina, where they accept new members and show support of the Shriners' philanthropy efforts, and they wanted to have a parade here in the town as a part of that. They're asking it for May 20th, and it would follow the same route as the Watermelon Festival Parade. There are representatives here if there are additional questions, or if you have questions of me specifically.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Before we vote, I just have a kind of...
Yeah, I just got one question. Is it the same? If I'm not mistaken, I think that the town of Newbern they used to have a parade similar to this. Is this something similar to what they had in Newbern?
The representative is saying, nodding yes.
Excuse me, sir. Could you come to the mic, please? Over here. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all. My name is Bobby Patchett. I'm the secretary at Pitt County Shrine Club right down the road here. And to answer your question, sir, yes, it is identical to what happens in Newbern every January that we will have in about 10 days in Newbern, as a matter of fact. And this is the very same thing. Sure is. We do this 3 times a year, May, November, and then January, in different parts of eastern North Carolina.
Part of North Carolina. Okay. Thank you.
We appreciate the work that you do in our communities, Shriners.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Padgett, may I ask you a question? This is, you're not requesting to do it annually in Winterville. You're just requesting for this one parade.
That is correct, ma'am. This is, we've not had an event like this in Pitt County since 2017.
Okay.
Not to say there would never be another one, but it would not be right away.
It's not a recurring.
It's not a recurring annual event. No, ma'am, it's not.
Thank you so much.
All right, let me ask one more question, right? While we got you there. The cleanup and the need of protection or service, what service that you need to provide from the town to have something like this?
The main thing that we would need, as with any parade, such as the Watermelon Festival, the Christmas parade, would be through police department which we have spoke with Lieutenant Raby with Winterville PD. We did that back in December before we started down this. So we would need that to block the streets that we would use, and then any cleanup involved, if there's anything where we stage or such, that will be our responsibility of the Shriners.
Okay. But we probably need to offer our street sweeper.
Yes. Our normal.
Wouldn't hurt.
Our normal efforts would be
Yeah.
taken, obviously.
It will be?
Okay.
Good.
Glad you have it.
Okay, thank you. I think that was you answered all my questions that I had, so I don't have any questions. So with that being said, we have a motion on the floor. Motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson. All in favor, vote by raising their right hand. Motion carry. Thank you. Section engineering firm, Railroad Street Stormwater Project, that will be Anthony.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, we have before you award of contract to the Wooten Company for their task order number 40. This is the engineering services for Railroad Street and Noble Canal project. As you know, this has been an ongoing project for many, many years, and we're trying to advance this to the next phase. And so, as you know, we've reallocated a lot of our ARPA funds from the general fund over to stormwater project. And so the next step is to move forward with selecting an engineer. And so in order to do that, we sent out RFQ. We advertised on November 30th, and we received, had communication with 9 firms. We received responses from 3. The criteria used for selecting the firm was qualification and experience, project approach, and completed projects. After that analysis, everything shook out. Staff is recommending that we go with Wooten Company. As you know, Wooten Company is also our general services engineer for the town and has been working with us for a long time. The estimated cost of this project for engineering will be $838,000. And, this is a large project that'll take many years. So it's not a simple thing, it's not a small thing, it's not a fast thing. But we're certainly, this is certainly the next step to moving forward with that project.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Do we need any
Yes, we need a
action?
motion.
Need a motion? Need a motion on this?
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
And a motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Rice. Any discussion?
What was the estimated cost, price that that submitted? You say it was 3 that submit?
Well, the submittals were not based on, they were based on qualifications, not value.
Right.
So when you're doing engineering service or other professional services, you can't basically quote it out or bid it out like you do an actual project. You base it on their qualifications. And this is industry standard, so that's the way that pretty much has to work anytime you have grant funding involved.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. With that being said, I call for the question. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carry. The North Carolina League legislative goals and voting delegate.
I've been your past delegate, and they gave us, I think, 16. They want us to pick 10 of these 16 to be party. Is that correct? 10 to 16?
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping y'all all prepared to say which 10.
If I could say, and I don't want to give the league a bad taste here or anything, they didn't give us much time. I just got those at the end of last week to get to y'all, and I apologize for that. But if we could move forward, we need to at least
Yeah, I was
have our say in the.
Yeah, I was hoping they would allow us to do internet service. When the goal, Wilson is the only town in North Carolina that has internet service. And I was hoping for internet service, so we do away with property taxes. the way to get rid of it. But it's not one of those choices we can choose from.
All right, have y'all looked at these and determined? You haven't looked at it, Paul?
Mayor, I have a suggestion. I don't know if council's up for it, but
Oh,
maybe to
send a poll.
select your voting delegates this evening, and then, yes, we could certainly send a poll
Right.
to everyone with their top 10.
That'll be much easier to do. So, who will be our delegates?
Nominate Mr. Moore.
Okay, got a nomination on the floor for Mr. Moore.
I second.
Okay. Any more nominations before we close it? There being any, Mr. Moore is moved by acclamation. So you,
Best I can.
okay, all right,
Still push that internet service.
okay. So do we need that's the only one we need?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, okay, that's fine. All right, we'll move on. Crosswalk.
I've heard through the grapevine that they did not want, the DOT does not want to do the crosswalks that we had. So a resident called me Friday. He'd already called them about crosswalks. And, there was one in front of my house. We got a sidewalk going from one school to the other. I would like the town to endorse having crosswalks from across Main, across Cooper. Another one would be on down probably. Would you say Ainge 2 or go with Academy?
If I may.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we have sort of a twofold thing going on. We've got the existing crosswalk that we need and are working on trying to get that reinstalled. I don't want to put Brian on the spot, but he was helping me reach out for a status update with DOT on the crosswalk that was across Cooper at Church Street.
That's correct. And so we initially reached out to them when they were starting the resurfacing project, make sure they were going to come back and restripe what was in place. The answer given was they were going to remark what was already existing.
Today.
So, I'm
He was
sorry?
in front of my house today.
So they did do the one?
I'm not saying, but he was in front of my house today.
Okay, so we did respond back with, evidence that they were in place prior to the resurfacing, so hopefully that'll be taken care of, but any more correspondence, I'd be happy to try to get that spearheaded as well.
And I appreciate Brian's help because he's been helping us identify and reach out, ongoing dialogue.
I see some new road surfaces have not held up.
Oh.
On Mill Street. Right down Mill Street, you come to town, you see some potholes already.
Okay.
Bring
Yeah.
that attention to them.
And DOT's got a pretty good pothole reporting service
It's got to be
online.
a certain size. This is brand-new pavement.
Okay, we'll make sure we document and get those guys notified.
Did they get the intersection down by Robinson,
Crosswalk there.
Robinson and Worthington? That little intersection?
No.
Yeah.
One time they had left that
That's
because it was,
It's ours.
it's our street.
It's our street.
And they won't, it just seems so strange, that little intersection there.
So that will be addressing that, Anthony.
Anthony?
If I may, we're going to be addressing that with our Powell Bill project that's coming up. And so we've already got engineers working on that because the railroad's involved. And anytime you're in railroad right away, you have to have surveys and blueprints and all the permitting that goes along with working in those areas. So we are looking to advance that. The ball is rolling in that regard. So as soon as we can finish the design, and then we'll put it out to bid, and then hopefully sometime this spring or summer, we'll be able to get paving going.
But that intersection is definitely on the list.
It's so
Thank
strange, they got the two
I know.
Newports and that little section there.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to add crosswalks on Cooper Street, I see that as obviously a simultaneous but a little bit different part of this project. So you all would need to identify what you're requesting. We'll send a formalized request and go that route. What we've been working with are existing.
Existing. I want an existing back, that's basically.
Yes.
So they were not
But if
paying.
you want additional down, I do know a lot of children walk to school
Yes.
and cross
It's
Cooper.
amazing, more than ever, and I've been,
There are a lot. So if we want additional crosswalks, certainly, I think that's a valid request, and we can do that. If you want to identify, let staff take a look at it. We can come back with some recommendations. You just tell me how you want to proceed.
Also, too, let me ask Anthony. Anthony, could you come back up for a second? I
Thank
just
you,
want
Brian.
to ask this question. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but NC0, is that part of some of that where we can use some of the money for crosswalks and all that? I'm just asking that question.
So actually, I was going to talk about it in my report tonight.
Oh, okay.
But I have a meeting scheduled for this Wednesday and to talk about safer routes to school. It's an NCDOT program. The town was involved with it many years ago. I think the program went away, it's kind of come back. And so we're going to revisit that program as soon as this Wednesday. So that, and then Vision Zero as well can be included because they are separate programs.
Right.
And I'm hoping that by bringing all this stuff together, we can create one big plan and have a lot of positive outcomes for the town and the pedestrians and citizens.
I was thinking, since we adopted Vision Zero, I was hoping that this would be something that we can actually,
Well, I think certainly as we apply for grants and things of that nature, taken those steps will be beneficial in showing the town's commitment to making sure that we have safe routes.
Right, okay.
So if it's okay with mayor and council, staff would be glad to come back with some recommendations for additional crosswalks on Cooper. Obviously, there'll be crosswalks included in the Ain Street Sidewalk Project. You'll get an update on that in a little bit. So we will be back in February with recommendations.
Okay, all right. Next up is, I like the
I was gonna say, can we do three instead of, can we skip two and come back to that and do three first under other agenda items? Is that all right?
That'll be all right.
Mr. Rouse approached me about the potholes at Family Dollar. What can be done, Keene? Anything at all?
Is that a town street?
No.
Okay, yeah, I think we
That's
got a
what we
problem.
can do. I can tell them that's what we can do.
It has been an ongoing request.
Right.
For several years now, and though we certainly feel their pain and plight, it is difficult for us to become involved in that.
Same.
Yeah.
I'll relay the message.
Okay.
All right, now, the good news, I hope.
Well, I think Anthony and Robert, this would be just kind of giving you an update on where we are with natural gas pricing. Let's just say we're cautiously optimistic.
There you go. I read in the Wall Street Journal like Thursday that prices are back to where they were last year.
Oh, no, but
better.
we have reason for some optimism, so,
Okay.
gentlemen.
Let me hold on then.
Any good news is good.
So natural gas prices are volatile.
It's what?
They're volatile. They fluctuate greatly.
Okay.
A few months ago, we were looking at January, February, the forward curves were estimating $20 to $25 per unit.
Right.
That number came down last week, I think to 16 to 18. It's dropped a little more today with the most recent forward curves. There's the good news. Now, the bad news, it is highly volatile. The weather system we had that came through during the Christmas holiday caused the price of natural gas to go up to $54 per unit. The 4-day average was about $16, $17. Obviously, we would like to bring the rates down as quickly as possible. But with the next 2 months historically being, 8 of our coldest weeks of the year, we don't think it would be very economically responsible right now to drop that rate. Now, we want to, but all it takes is one storm to raise the gas rates quickly up, and then our revenues would be far short of our expenditures.
But this week and next week are the coldest 2 weeks of the year, normally in North Carolina. So
I've heard from my dad, who's an old farmer all my life, from Christmas to Valentine's Day is the coldest of the year. And that normally proves to be pretty close to accurate. But that's where we stand as of today. on gas prices. I think Anthony can probably give you some numbers.
Well, just briefly, before these gas prices started skyrocketing, just to kind of give you a little, we're talking, we were anticipating in the mid-20s as being the peak, and we had an incident, and then we're up in the mid-40s, and, before all this took place, we were anywhere from $2.50 to $4. So just to kind of give you the level of magnitude, and just to remind council, we have had 2 significant budget amendments to cover the cost of the losses that we were having following bringing up the end of last fiscal year and then moving into this year, because we had $1 million budget amendment last month to get the budget. We're at 50% of the year basically, and with that $1 million adjustment to the purchase for resale line item, we're still over at 51% some change.
What are the other towns doing? That's part of our Kings Mountain.
Well, you're seeing some come on, they're just now raising their rates.
Just now?
Some of them have raised them more than once in a short period of time.
Yeah, I think we found early on that some of the ones who maybe raised them earlier and didn't raise them enough, and so then they had to go back and have a second increase. And we, if you recall, when we did our rate increase, we wanted to avoid that and make sure that we set it at a rate that was,
How many towns are part of this group at this time? The 5 initial towns, but how many?
We've added 3.
Initially, I believe there were 5 from North Carolina.
5.
Since then, we've added, I think, 2 more from South Carolina. And 1 more has come online from North Carolina. I think we're up to 8.
8. I thought it was 8.
But we're quickly getting close to the point where we're on a really difficult day where we're maxing out the plant.
So maybe we need to look, at least look at the future, if this continues. Always need to plan ahead just in case. At least be looking.
We are, and a part of what you're seeing now is reducing the carbon footprint as a requirement for our energy providers. And one thing Duke has said that they're but one thing Duke is looking at doing, and you should be proud, they're looking at building additional gas turbine facilities. They see that as an economical way to deliver the product to the customers and reduce the carbon footprint at the same time.
But the cost, they couldn't,
but we were a little forward thinking.
They had 500,000 people without power.
They did.
Well, and again, that's a great point. Those rolling outages that they had recently, fortunately,
We didn't have it.
we did not have that.
Right. Last week we had 14 hours with no power in Bayboro, and my place froze up. I spent all day last Saturday repairing pipes.
Well, I had some friends in Wayne County that were out over 14 hours.
I'm on a COVID shot.
But Winterville didn't have any, right?
We had none.
We had none.
I will tell you, there were several local places. Even with the speed, we'll talk about on our report. We were very fortunate.
Thank you.
Right. Well, we appreciate.
Mr. Robert, can I ask you, could we have another report on this? Probably, this is what, January, probably about, what you say, March? January?
Well, I think
Yeah, we had
We already.
talked about, the original plan was to start looking at it in the March, April timeframe and just get us through this rough period of uncertainty when we don't know what these gas prices are going to do, and then reassess. And as soon as we can, make a better decision about what the future looks like with these gas prices, then hopefully we can start backing that rate down.
I think we anticipate February giving you an update on what we're seeing.
Right.
We'll give you an
Well,
update in March, but definitely, and Councilman Moore, you're talking about looking at the future. I think we're doing that, and we're looking at a variety of things that would address future of our energy usage. But again, it's so volatile, and everybody's having to do the same thing, so.
But after you do your assessment during that period, to the ones that wasn't present when we made this observation, could you just, in 1 or 2 words to say, if we meet this goal, this is what we're planning on doing? Just share that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so when we had originally adopted PCA, which is a power cost adjustment, is what everybody's seeing on their utility bills as of the past 2 months. And so we're only 2 months into this. What happened, we had brought in, what's Randy's last name? Randy Halley, some utility advisors to guide us through some of these uncertain times. But we were certainly seeing dramatic increases in our cost of electricity. And so in order to counter that, town council reacted quickly and made good decisions, sound financial decisions to curtail some of the losses that we were taking as a result of these unprecedented rate increases. And so now, as we move through the spring and the demand for natural gas goes down for heating and things of that nature, the plan and the hope is that these prices will drop, and once they drop, we can reduce the power cost adjustment rate that's been applied to the utility bill. Does that summarize it, or make more questions?
No, that's summary.
Okay.
Good job.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I,
Okay. All right.
can I ask about one thing
Yes.
that I know bothers all of us? The post office, the doors. Is there any way we can get a letter from this board to, I guess, advocate for the repair of those doors? We got COVID going on, and those of us who go to the post office every day, you know,
What is
I'm
that?
one of those people. The post office, one door is broken
Yeah, what
and
happened?
closed,
Both of them. Oh, yeah.
and the other one's broken.
They're
It's
both
open,
broken
but it's
now.
broken. And it seems like I really feel like it's almost a hazard.
It definitely
We
looks,
know the building.
Wait.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I don't go often, Ms. Robertson, I try to stay away, but I did notice, I was there last week, and I wondered what happened, because they were both broken.
They've been broken a long time.
Wow.
And you can't, there's one way in, one way out, and even that door, the glass is broken.
Will,
Just a
was
letter
gonna- right,
to, I know that we don't own the building,
right.
but a letter from town council, I think, would move the owner to do it.
Well, the owner lives in Florida. He lived in South Hall and moved to Florida years ago. And the only person that can help us is our congressman, which would be Don Davis. Let us should go to him about the post office. We know that the staff says it's unsafe, it's too small, even the parking lot's too small now.
Yes.
They need to make arrangements to move the post office in a safe location where the staff and the people can have good service. Now, Kay Hagan did help us a while. She's no longer there, but Don Davis has been the one to address the letter to.
All right. Okay.
Look for a better location.
Very good.
I think both send a letter to the owner too.
Yeah.
I think, if he thinks somebody's gonna move out of that building, he might get some things done to it. So I'd like to see a letter to the owner and to contact our congressional.
And my only question that I have you actually spoken to the postmaster? Have you, either, any of you spoken to the postmaster?
She can't do
Can't
anything
do
about it.
anything about it.
No, but we
No,
can,
I know, but
about-
I'm asking, have you she may not, have you actually spoken to her to see, have they tried to do anything?
Not lately,
Not lately.
not lately.
I'd be glad to reach out.
Okay, I think that'll be the first initial.
If nothing else,
Right.
just to let her know.
Right,
what
because
we're
that's gonna
doing.
be the back door to all this, because on the federal side, the first thing they're gonna ask you, have you
Right,
reached out to?
Local.
and we'll copy
Right.
council on.
But I know that they will support, I have talked to them to the point that I know that they will support the idea of a larger building, a better facility,
Right.
as far as that's concerned.
All right,
Say mold is a big issue.
okay. All right, items, that was one of the items for future agenda, I reckon. Future work sessions. Anybody? Okay. Quarterly reports from all department heads,
This is the beginning of the quarter.
make it brief,
They understand they're supposed to keep it short.
keep it short, hit the highlights, please.
Real quick, so obviously, development is still pretty brisk in town. One of the big ones I want to mention to you guys, you may not know about, we've got a site plan under review right now for Beacon Drive, that big the big parcel in the middle. So we've got a major grocery store anchor going in. Lowe's Foods, you guys may remember they used to be in Greenville back in the day. They rebranded to an upscale grocery store. So there's going to be actual grocery anchor with about 17, 18 out parcels there. There will be opportunities for other businesses. So currently under review. I do want to credit Stephen Penn. He's been working on that site for years to get a good quality tenant in there. So our economic development planner's done a really good job on getting a quality tenant in there. So that's all I got.
Big news.
Yes, that's huge news for the town of Winterville.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, that's
Sales
huge.
tax.
Lowe's Food. Great job, Stephen, if you're listening.
He's watching the game now.
Okay. Evan.
Everything.
Oh, games.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few quick things for you. One, I want to thank everybody for coming out and for all the town staff that helped on Christmas parade and tree lighting ceremony. I think this was probably one of the most successful years that we've had. There are a number of factors to attribute to that, but it was certainly a great year. Also, for Parks and Rec, we've got Cal Ripken baseball registration going on right now, daddy-daughter dance registration going on right now, I think karate and a variety of dance programs, working on some upcoming events, working on tournament calendar, working to finalize dates for Easter, and all sorts of good stuff like that. On the planning and inspection side of things, building inspection side of things, everything's wide open, a lot of development going on in town, of course, townhomes, basis for autism, and then, residential here, there, and everywhere. That's all I got. Thank you.
Short, Robert.
Come on down, Robert.
Short, Robert.
Bringing up the notepad. We're going to do it again, Don.
19.
Good evening. This is Ron Mills. Ron is one of our crew leaders. Ron takes care of most of the items in the field for us. Ron's a very incredibly valuable asset for the town. I've asked him to come tonight, kind of catch up a little bit on ongoing projects and what we've done this past quarter.
Hey, how are y'all?
Hey.
We've done some work out for ACEs for autism on Old Toll Road across from City Routes. We put in the pipe infrastructure there, and the service and some future pipe work out there. We did some work at Christ Covenant School. We've built a back feed to that school. And also we've been working out at Lebanon, Maine a lot, putting in the pipe and infrastructure work out there to provide power to those new townhomes. And some other stuff, Christmas decorations,
I was going to
your
say,
flags.
if I could say thank you, because not only did they put up all the banners, and then they had to turn around and put up all the Christmas decorations, and then take all the Christmas, thank you,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
thank you.
Developers love when you tell them we can't dig today, we're putting up Christmas lights. But the last thing I want to catch you up on is two things. When we talk about the volatility of the gas market, we look at hedging as a possibility to buy gas ahead of time. Play in the
Like any
market.
transformers.
Had we done that, we would have been hemorrhaging money right now. It would have been a horrible decision. A lot of places do it, and a lot of places lost money doing that this year. Thankfully, we didn't do that. Other thing is materials. You've all heard about how the delays we're seeing in materials. That's back on the front burner. We've had some transformers ordered now since this past February that had a guaranteed, close to a guaranteed delivery date as you can get of January. Recently, that date was pushed back out. We are working and trying to get as creative as possible to get that date closer to January. So, it's kind of what we've got going on. If you got any questions, we're more than happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
The money lady.
The money lady.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a couple of quick updates for finance. We have the applications ready for customers to submit to Green Lamp for the energy assistance on their bills, and just a reminder, it's a one-time $85 credit. We also have information posted about the energy assistance at the town hall and on the website. The application that they receive also has an energy resource list that's been updated, and we're also entering into our budget season, so we'll get ready for our vision setting meeting on the 23rd, and that's all I have.
Folks, I guess you noticed as you came in the door, Willie did a nice banner kind of highlighting the program with Green Lamp in addition to other resources. The same banner is up in front in Town Hall. And so trying to get that word out to folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for putting your report so I don't have to rotate.
So we'll start off Ain Street project. As y'all recall, we've spent a lot of time talking about crosswalks tonight. That Ain Street project does include the addition of some more crosswalks on the east side of the middle school over there near the softball field. So that we're having a pre-con meeting beginning this Wednesday. And so hopefully we'll get everything scheduled with the contractor. Last month you approved Tripp Brothers to do the work, and so everything's lining up. It's just a matter of getting the shovels in the dirt and getting everything moving and trying to get that project finished. Safer routes to school, we kind of talked about that earlier. I had planned on mentioning that, but just to reiterate, we'll be working this week and probably bringing some more people into the fold as this thing develops. But obviously, you clearly want to make it a good, safe community for the children going to school and pedestrians as well. So with addition of sidewalks, I have been working on a brick building resiliency grant, and we just applied for a $7 million grant to assist with the Railroad Street project. And unfortunately, we'll have to wait till August to find out if where we score in that program. But spent a lot of time working on that and getting that off the ground. So I'll certainly keep you posted as we get updates on that. That's all I have.
Anthony, what the status is on sidewalks for Mill Street? So
that's probably more of maybe an MPO process. I don't know. There's nothing going on currently as far as, there's nothing in the works to get a sidewalk put in over there as far as the town's concerned. Recently, and I think with probably the influx of money from the federal government, as it starts to trickle down, there's going to be more opportunities, and hopefully we're going to be able to find some, whether it be through the MPO or through the town itself, to find funding that can help us get those sidewalks in.
It remains an important part of our walkability plan. It's something that we discuss internally, and as there are opportunities for some of this joint venture funding, if possible, we'll certainly try to get that pushed up the project list.
One other thing, what about say we're going to work on that part, right? About Mill Street?
Well, it's on the list, and as we find ways to push it up the list, we'll certainly do our best.
Thank you. And also, what about behind Good Hope Church? The ditch?
Noble Canal? Yeah, that will be part of the project. As you may recall, I don't want to give you any great expectations of major changes in the area, but there's only so much we can do to that canal with it being a blue line stream and having to go through the permitting and regulatory processes that are related to that. So there are plans in place. I know the county is looking at doing something, and we're going to try to work together with them to piggyback, bring that into the other project, and make sure we are able to maximize what we can do on that canal.
That would be great. Well, that's about a 50-year project, isn't it?
It's been going on for a while. But it'll never be a situation where you can put close it in and tile it, and it's just not.
Well, hopefully we can be able to stabilize it, though, right?
Bank stabilization is probably our best option.
Yes, as we've been talking about.
And that may be selective at, they may say, you can do this section, but not that section. So I think you've been presented a plan in the past that said that we would be allowed to make improvements in what I call spot areas of the canal. And so that has been presented to you previously, and I'm sure as we move forward with this, that'll get brought back into the fold.
Anthony, when we talked about sidewalks on Mill Street, last number we got was $194,000. Well, that meeting for the 23rd, he's going to give an estimate of that meeting purposes.
Sure, we can work on that.
I think that's one of the projects I'd like to see completed.
Repeat that, and speaking to your mic when you're talking.
Mill Street, sidewalk was $194,000 last time we discussed it. And I'd like to have at least the idea of what it might cost now in today's world.
Good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm sure
That was one of my major projects
Yes,
years
I'm sure
ago to
that's
do.
changed. Yeah.
Because more people walk down Mill Street than the other street. I don't want anybody to die.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Busy road. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Make sure I speak directly into the mic.
Good job.
Good job. Follow the direction.
A little update on our holiday events. It took 10 hours for us to get our 200 bicycles this year. I think we had 30 or so to go at 5:30, and a good citizen that I know came and bought the last 30 all at once, so that was a blessing. For Shop with a Cop, we served 8 families, 17 children this year, our biggest group ever. That was a good time as well. We should have, knock on wood, 3 police officers graduating from BLET at the very first part of March, I believe, and we'll be able to introduce you to them at that time. We're looking forward to that.
Chief, I got another email Thursday about how many more helmets we need for bicycles. Any number this year? They've asked again how many helmets we would like to have for next year.
Oh, my.
We went from 50 to 100.
I don't think we can have too many bicycle helmets. We can get them distributed. With our resource officers, all 3 in place now, that'd be a good way to get those pushed out to the children of
I've made the request.
the community. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Chief, any fires?
Chief, you might want to talk about your upcoming burning
Right.
soiree.
That many?
There'll be-
There'll be one, I think. There's one.
Just one?
I think it's one.
I never want to be the one to stretch out a meeting. We will be burning the house Saturday morning at 2721 Church Street. Should be a fairly quick burn. It's a small house, probably be over lunchtime or just after.
I'm sure you all have seen it, all the siding's off, it's ready.
Yep.
What's the other, one I mentioned to you earlier before Christmas about burning, the one that burned? Oh, it's the Tripp's house.
There are 3 of those. They're still working on the 3rd one. We ain't got paperwork back on any of those. I know they've been working on them, so I think they are coming, but we don't have them yet.
Okay.
Several more to come.
I don't know why he wants to run his mother's house down, but
I think it's time for them to go, just from going in them and throwing.
But when you're out and about Saturday, you should see some action.
Come by, we'll put you to work.
nope.
Appreciate you, Chief. Thank you. Okay. Todd in the back. Pinch hitting today, Todd.
Hey, good evening, y'all. For any of y'all that don't know, my name is Todd Best. I'm the Public Works Superintendent. Unfortunately, Cliff, the director, could not be here tonight due to some sad circumstances. I just bring you up to date on some things. I am pleased to finally announce that the Church Street sewer project is finally complete. Minus, some small cleanup and removal of spoil material. But it is complete and is flowing under the railroad track as we speak. Chapman Street project from Inliner, where we had the failure a month or so ago, and we had to come in and work through the night and part of the next morning to get it back open. The permanent repairs being made this week, They started today. They're going to work on it tomorrow and probably through Friday. That being said, Chapman Street on the section down between Depot and Main will remain closed till hopefully Friday afternoon we can reopen it.
Todd, do you anticipate Main being affected at all?
I'm sorry?
Main Street being affected at all?
That at a point, they will have to bypass into a manhole there, and they will have flaggers.
Okay.
It will not be closed or detoured around. They'll have flaggers there with one lane of traffic open.
Great, thank you.
We're ramping up our flushing program to increase the water quality. Right now, we're at a 2% loss. The state that regulates this would like for us to be at a 5%. So we're trying to amp up our flushing program to reach that 5%, plus to also increase the water quality by moving the water around, especially in the dead ends. This time of year as well, we're trying to amp up the street sweeping as much as possible. Leaves have about all fell now, but we're trying to get that out at least 2 to 3 times a week on the street. All of our utility patches in the asphalt and streets has been completed, as well as the entrance to Jeremy Lane off of Lori Ellis due to a contractor hitting a gas line there and damaging the road. So that is complete as well. And that's all from Public Works, unless anyone has a question.
Got a question about Highway 11, old Highway 11, going back towards Aden. It was brought to my attention that I think it's probably about a mile outskirts of Winterville. There's a tree is hanging over the.
Is that on Reedy Branch Road?
I think it's before we get to, yes, somewhere down in the area. Are you aware of this?
Was it hanging over the road?
It hanging over the road, yes.
I am not, and if it's,
Can we get together? It's all right with your town manager that we'll just take a tour and go down there probably one day next week and take a look at it.
But it's on Highway 11?
Yeah, old Highway 11, going towards Aden.
Mill Street.
Old Highway 11, okay.
Yes, on Mill Street.
Okay, sure,
Yes.
absolutely.
And also, didn't we have some work done down on Highway 11, right before you get to Ritter Branch Road on the right-hand side?
The woods there,
Some piping or something?
large tile was put in.
Where exactly at now?
Right by the canal.
That canal.
Right there, canal. Right there for the brick house.
On
right-hand side.
Old 11?
Yes.
That is part of the Church Street project.
That's
Yeah,
part of the
right.
church.
Yes, sir, that's part of the Church Street project
So
there.
it is complete.
That is complete.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay. Don, you queued up.
Now that you're breathing again.
Yeah, at least I'm not sneezing. A number of y'all have let me know about the Martin Luther King Scholarship Breakfast, which is this Thursday. If you have not and are interested in going, let me know either tonight or early tomorrow so I can finish getting tickets. I've gotten everybody's tickets just about. Next Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and offices will be closed. So because of that, Planning and Zoning Board meeting has been moved to Tuesday at 7, and if needed, the Board of Adjustment will move till 8 o'clock. Vision setting, as has been discussed, is at 6 o'clock, but as you all have made plans tonight, you will be here at 5 for your other meeting. We will provide some food for you that night, so don't come too hungry, but we will give you something. Recreation Advisory Board on January 24th. Human Relations Board on January the 26th. Your next meeting is on February the 13th, and sort of some reminders, save the dates down the road. Town and State Dinner will be in Raleigh on February the 22nd. And I have not seen, unless it was just today, registration, but if you'll let me know if you want to go, I think some of you have already, but if you want to go, let me know soon as registration comes out, I can get for you. And then City Vision is in April in Concord, and nothing's out on registrations on that, but I think I told you last time, I do have rooms secured for you, and then for everybody, and then if we don't have enough of you, we can release them, but it is the April 25th through the 27th, and most likely, the way those things start, I've not seen the agenda yet. You usually have to be up there the day before because it starts early, and it ends late on the last day. So that would be really the 24th and 28th, and you have rooms that would allow for you to arrive on the 24th and depart on the 28th. That's all that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For tolerating me through that spell.
Thank you, Don, and thank you to staff for all y'all hard work and your quarterly reports. You always do a great job, so we really appreciate y'all, as usual. Next up, we'll hear from our town attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I too don't want to be accused of stretching out a meeting. I think there's a football game being played tonight.
What game?
Just a little one.
And if the information my daughter just sent me, Georgia's up big, so.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I appreciate it.
excited.
I do want to revisit one thing very briefly from your December meeting. At the December meeting, the council agreed to renew the lease with Daltrich Oil. The previous lease that you were renewing was for 10 years, and y'all, of course, just rolled that over. And I was sort of thinking about it a day or two later. A 10-year lease is just a little unwieldy. It's quite frankly, after 10 years, you're struggling to find the file, you're struggling to find your notes and your documents. I would suggest that we do it 3 to 5, and just wanted to recommend that to y'all if y'all wanted to re-examine that.
Make a motion, at least be 5 years.
A second.
Have a motion on the floor from Councilman Moore to redo the lease for 5-year term.
5-year term.
Second by Councilman Rice. Any questions? No questions, call for the vote. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carry. Thank you.
And one other very brief thing, also on the subject of leases, y'all were talking earlier tonight about the lease between the owner of the building where the post office is and, of course, the USPS. I've never seen that lease, but I know it's not unusual for commercial leases for the tenant to be responsible for plate glass. I know this is the USPS and the federal government may have different procedures, but that being the case, there's a very good chance that the post office is responsible for replacing that glass in those doors. Only way to know is to ask.
Thank you, sir.
Should ask our federal government to replace our doors.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have. Thank you.
Watch out now, I work for them people. Councilman Moy, you're on deck.
I just like to wish everyone a happy new year and a prosperous one.
Thank you. Councilman Rice.
I'd say we had a good group of folks applying for that job. Hard decisions to make.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ms. Robertson.
I agree with Councilman Rice. We do have some very qualified applicants for our board. It shows the good interest from our citizens. The Human Relations Board, I didn't go to the last meeting, but I know that we did volunteer with the Thanksgiving boxes and volunteered at the tree lighting. Chief was good about getting the ham, and we got to raffle that off, and I thought that was good. And we do need someone to apply for the library board position that we will have open. in March. And Happy New Year to everybody.
Councilwoman Robertson, that has to be an elected official.
We have a seat on the board, I guess, with the thing that we passed last time, you know, where we endorsed the, asking the Board of Commissioners for a quote, permanent seat, an elected official, so,
So it has to be an elected official.
for that seat.
Okay, got it.
Well. I
Check
don't
into
know.
it.
I don't know.
Can you check into it?
I'll ask if it has to be an elected official, but we will need someone in March.
All right.
My tour ends.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Moore,
No comment.
Madam.
Just want to say Happy New Year to everybody and look forward to working with you all.
Motion adjourned.
Before you adjourn, I would like to speak, Mr. Moore.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. And that, you know, this is coming up, well, this is starting my second term, and I appreciate the chance to serve the citizens of Winterville this past year, my first term, being a mayor. Learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of things from my cohorts, my other mayors, that I always bounce things off and ask questions. I don't think you're never too old to learn something from someone else, you know, someone that's been in it longer than you. And I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. I also like to thank all the citizens that did apply. I think y'all kind of saw what government is all about. I hope that didn't scare you, what we was doing tonight. But as a board, we got some stuff that we got to address, and how we got to conduct ourselves up here. So, you know, but all in all, we're here to represent the town. And with that being said, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion to adjourn by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.